Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Let all the participants join and we'll start in 5 minutes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the day 3 of our Entrepreneurship and Skill Certification course, which is a flagship course of Usmania Technology Business Incubator, Usmania University. I welcome you all on the behalf of OTBI. Our first session's resource person is Mr. Subajith Saha, Head Legal and IPR, Resolute IP, and Intellectual Property. I welcome you, sir, and I request you to please go ahead and get started with the session.
Yeah, thank you so much for this introduction. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Thanks a lot for this opportunity. And yeah, I think I need the host rights to present, please. Can you give me? Otherwise, I'm not able to present. Yeah, thank you.
Sir, are you able to present now?
All right? No, no. Yeah. So I would like to now begin. Sorry for this technical glitch, I think. So I hope I'm audible and you can see the slides. You go on mute. Yes. Oh, yes, sir. Okay. So today's topic is on legal compliance for organizations. So as you know, today I think startups have become really a buzzword, and whether it is an enterprise or an entrepreneur or any particular person who would like to venture into a firm or a business or a kind of any kind of requirements which is under the statutory compliances which he needs to comply, it's very essential that he plays according to the rules of the game. So it's very essential that you play hockey as per the rules of hockey and not with kabaddi. So so there are different kind of compliances when you talk about different entities, whether it is startup or small enterprises, partnerships or sole proprietors. So and then we'll also talk about intellectual property rights, which is one important aspect for all enterprises and entrepreneurs to know, because I feel that innovation and incubators are the future of this country, and is the catalyst. Because if you cannot protect, monetize, and commercialize your IP, I think then the very fact of innovation is not going to the last mile and developing products which are useful for the society. So and in return you get some revenue. So that is what is the background. So about a small one slide about our company. We are a Resolute group, and we are a conglomerate headquartered in Hyderabad. We are into these sectors of services: electronic manufacturing, system integration, digital marketing, sales enablement, animation and gaming, and intellectual property rights facilitation. That's Resolute for IP. So that is how we are presently. And the Resolute for IP brand was formed in 2022 January, which is a new service vertical of ours. And the aim of this brand was to assist entrepreneurs, organizations in registering their IP and creating IP assets, provide best-in-class IP services, which is affordable to all stakeholders. And then the vision is to create a self-reliant IP-driven organization nurturing IP spirit with the motive of IP for all. So one enterprise, multiple IP. So when you want to fight a battle, you cannot fight with one weapon. So you need to have a lot of other weapons in the armory. So IP also, you need to have a patent, trademark, copyright, designs, multiple portfolio that will really help you to understand. So our other achievements were in the last year was that we launched the first of its kind IP mascot for the government of Telangana called IP Buddy, which is a Rachit generally for counseling and IP services. I think we'll give you the WhatsApp number at the end of this session, where anybody and everybody can ask a question on IP, and this mascot will help you to reply in WhatsApp in within a day's time or in some few hours, whatever is query, whether you want to file a patent or a trademark, where do you go, what to do, how to file, why, and all those basic questions will be answered. Or we will also help you networking with the finest of the law firms if need be, and then help you to get that compliances done for IP. Then we also signed an MOU with TASK, which is Telangana Academy of Skill and Knowledge for IP awareness. And we will be conducting a lot of IP ambassador certification programs, where we have a 1 hour program on, 1 hour program on IP. Dr. Basha today through this media. If you can give me the list of participants today, we can access IP ambassador. So whoever is the organizer, I think this whole my there in the center submission and file intellectual property rights for enterprises, because if you see today, the major money lies in the IP. Even if you see episodes of Shark Tank or any kind of investors, they will ask, the first question is, who owns the IP? Who owns the brand? What is the idea? Is it yours, or you have taken from somebody, or you have a kind of a license, or have you filed patents for it? Or is it because tomorrow if they want to invest and it ends up into a litigation or infringement, it will spoil their repute being a high profile investors, and also the portfolio of their own company, which might get affected. So it's very essential that when you play on these terrains, you have to be very, very cautious legally, statutorily, and also have a lot of understanding of the rules of the game and play according to it. So the legal compliance. So if you see, every company needs legal compliances. They are the bone, I would say, or the foundation, because as the constitution is our foundation of our country, I would say legal compliance is the foundation or the basic or the backbone of any company. Because if your legal ethics and legal documentation is strong, I think you build a very strong fort which will not be moved down. See, today you have the classic example of the conglomerates, like, in the news, if you see all these big MNCs, shareholdings, and all that, these are all legal and statutory compliances, unlikely failure of the business or the regulatory issue, authorities, that today's world is seeing so much turmoil, disturbances in business models, and also giving rise to a lot of doubts in the mind of investors and also bankers, and then creating a total, chaos in the atmosphere. So I think the very act of legal compliance plays a major role in every business, whether it is big or small. So even if it is a small shop, you need to take a trade license, you need to file your PAN, your TIN, and all those rules and regulations. And I think the compliance is less. But whereas in MSMEs or a factory, the compliances are more. Forms to fill, around 55, 60 compliances or more than that. The government has reduced so many acts so many statutes. Every time you see in the parliament when the budget or the is presented, that they have cut down so many acts or statutes. And so the idea is to make life simple, make life easy for people to just log in, take permission. So you have the TSI pass here for Telangana for self-certification system for taking your licenses on running a factory, whether it's a building plan or is it taking a manufacturing, electricity, groundwater. So all these permissions are now driven. You just have to go into the portal and at the cost of the government subsidized cost, identify that, give your DPR, and then the things are done. But all said and done, it's not that easy, because you have a lot of spokes. You get a land which is not leveled, or then you need to level it, and then things go on. So that's a basic thing. But this is what I'm trying to convey to the audience here, is that you please spend quite amount of time to do due diligence of your own legal composition of your company. And also, when you're trying to do business with another company, try to get into the legal framework of the other company. Like, what exactly is the company? Who are the shareholders? What are the model of business? What is the HR policy? What is the wind up policy to them? How are the share patterns? Do they own any brands? What are they into any litigation? So these are some of the questions we quote and unquote you need to answer and get take this kind of understanding that when you enter into a business. So for this, it is important for every business and company to plan out and strategize, manage, organize, and control the various business activities and transactions. So, you should understand that you should strategize, manage, organize, and control the various business activities and transaction before entering into any kind of a business. So for every company, business, legal compliance is of prime importance. It is necessary. If a company has entered into contract with the clients, when it is done, company has to sign some agreements and terms. So suppose you want to enter into a relation with other company, so there has to be a term sheet which is signed, understanding what exactly are the terms and conditions, what are the equity which would be taking in, what are the shares holding, how much you will be converting into later on into from debentures, in case there is a debt in the form of debentures will be converted into equity in the later stage. So then you need to play accordingly and then mutually. So please remember that again, any contract or any agreement is only binding when it is mutually agreeable and enforceable. This is very essential for legal compliance also. So if you are agreeing to it, signing to it, and the other party has given you that kind of a mutual consent which are required, like whether you're applying for something, you have got an offer comes for a license, you apply for that license. When the license is applied, you get a certificate, the contract is closed. So then it and then the legal angle, the compliance, the enforcement starts. So in the absence of legal governance and compliance, there's possibility of litigation. There is a possibility of misunderstanding. There's a possibility of going jumping the gun. So it's very essential that you should comply, because as entrepreneurs tomorrow, you will expand, you will do business with multiple vendors, contracts, stakeholders, and then supply chain. So there is a lot of things which you need to come into play. It's not only about the normal any CA would give you this legal compliance actually. So I would spend more time on the intellectual property rights part rather than the legal compliance, which is just name of the company, registration, your PAN, your bank account, your basic digital signature, your all these are just like a kind of what do you say? It's almost it's like how every morning you brush your teeth, so you know that what needs to be done. So you don't need to be taught as an entrepreneur that what would be, but basically these are just a checklist to see that you don't overstep or oversee or don't have so that you don't miss out on something. So this is like more like a reiteration, so that so for the first basic document is to file a registrar of companies. To when you form a company, so is to fill up the form, fill in your details, given your all partners or shareholders or directors, then the meeting. So these something would your auditor or your CA or your CA company secretary will always do it for you. You basically have to spend your more what do you say, your more time and expertise on the business front. The statutory and the compliances will always be taken care. But standard compliances, basic compliances are very essential. You cannot actually look into. It's not only important to comply with the legislative rules, laws, bylaws. It is equally important to comply with internal standards, policies, and solutions set up by the company. So this can be evident by establishing standard watchdog mechanisms too. It's not that only the government or a regulator or a third person will be inspecting me. That's the reason I'm keeping my factory clean, my books clean, my accounts clean, or my doing the method of doing the business clean. I need to do my own hygiene. I need to maintain my financial hygiene, my technical hygiene, my all that. So these to check on your own compliances so that you're strong inside, so that when you go into the outside world can be you get more visibility as a company. You will be recognized with the more less compliance compatibility issues. So that's my message. And then the legal. So basically, if you're a startup, because today I think the buzzword is startup. Everybody wants to be a startup. Just a brilliant idea, or you want to do business, or you want to make money, or you do it, get some investors, then spin off, and then move off, and then sell off, and then do something else. I think startup, the entire vision of startup, according to me, is something that you are an ecosystem where you are solving a societal problem. Okay. And you are creating a disruption, you're creating a societal solution which is sustainable, scalable, and equally giving benefits to people, to the nation, to your own self. And it is a vision actually which you lead, and if you breathe and you take it forward. Just calling yourself a co-founder or a founder or a startup will not help unless and until why are you doing this business? What is the purpose of your own existence as a startup? If you're not able to answer that question, I think the basic question is that we also ask, why are you filing an IP? When we ask, are you trying to do a biodata patent? Are you planning to commercialize it? Or you want to take it to the next level? Or you want to just file patents for the sake to look, your CV looks attractive. So I want to be a startup. Everybody is a startup. So I also open a startup. There are multiple startups, Chai Amrut, Chai there's a lot, bestie and franchises you get at 2.5, 3 lakhs, and then people say I'm a startup. So, but yes, you are a startup, definitely. But are you doing something which is solving problems? Are you doing something which is giving you to scale? Companies like which are scaling at a height of almost 10, 20, 30% year on year, and then you invest on those startups. So that is the ecosystem which you need to build, I think. And then, so a startup should be incorporated as a private limited company or registered as a partnership firm or an LLP. The choice is yours based on the founders, the co-founders who come in. So there are cases you have to be very, very careful, because sometimes what happened is I've seen people leaving their job, coming together as a startup and working on an idea, spending a lot of time together. And then when the idea is shaping up, the guy goes back to the job and then dumps these two founders. There was a small short film in some social media. So you have to be very careful when you're working with partners who are of different terrain, of not together. So you need the trust factor also to start up. So legal compliances begins with trust. The trust is very important. If your startup guys are coming together, spending time, and then they say, and overnight he runs away with that idea and then puts it back into the company where he was there, and then scales the ladder and then dumps you, then all your time, your effort, your everything goes down the drain. So it's very essential. And then if you see today the definition as per the new budget, I think entity shall be considered as a startup from 10 years from the date of its inception. So earlier it was 7 years. Now I think it has been extended to another 3 years. So where you can actually look into your accounts book and see that you are not able to give that money back to your investors. So still you have another 3 years to actually be into that ambit, so that you can get back and then perform. And then the window of startup has increased from 7 to 10 from inception. So, and then the startup should be working towards innovation, I think, as I said, improving of existing products. So, and then it must obtain certification from interministerial board to set up such purpose. So there, and then the entity form for splitting up construction of an existing business shall not be considered as a startup. So if you are trying to reconstruct or revive or open a new business from existing business, suppose you're into today you're into some kind of watches, and tomorrow you want to open a kind of new watch brand, and then you want to open a retail or a online or a portal, then that doesn't be a startup, because you're already existing in a watch business for a long time. So provided you go into a new way of if you want to bring out an innovation, suppose in terms of making a watch more compatible for fitness or wearables which are having more Wi-Fi connected with internet and IoT and all that, probably it could be with some patents can be considered and as a startup when you registered. So DPIIT also gives you the certification of startups, and startups have got a lot of rebate for filing IPs. They are on par with an individual. So whatever you file, your fee is 1/4 of a legal entity. So that's how we treat it as. So to run any business, there are various types of permissions you require from different authorities. And in the form of permits and licenses that allow you to conduct your business and attract undesirable lawsuits or penalties or fines by various authorities. So because there are a lot of people who will look into you. It can be with the factory. If you are using a boiler, there will be a boiler inspection, boiler license, generator license, EB license, a lot of things, pollution, PCB. If you're not a white goods, because we are a white goods company, white goods is electronic manufacturing goods. So we do not generate any effluents or industrial waste or any kind of hazardous chemicals. So we do not have to take a pollution control board, PCB permission, because we don't have any emissions. So, but we are doing something on backward integration where we are doing molding now. So where boilers are used, so there will be a lot of smoke coming in. There will be a lot of smoke going into the air. So we need to file. We are filing. In fact, we have filed for PCB permission. So then this is what things will change with the nature of your business. So these legal document, depending on the nature, industry to industry varies. So For one industry, it might be different. For another, might be different. So you need to be very, very aware of the fact you cannot be completely in sync with what is required, but definitely you need to be aware as an entrepreneur, because you don't have to be also, if you're a CEO or a founder, that you should know all the legal compliances, all the statutory compliances. It's not necessary, but of course your awareness level about how to go about things, what needs to be done, is very, very essential. I think that is what is the main importance of this session today. By the end of this session, I'm sure that you will be confident enough to understand that why we need compliances, legal compliances, and why IP is needed. So the first thing of regulatory compliance for any company is very important, because it gives you a fair treatment of your employees, your payment, your humanly and fair working hours, helps company avoid penalty, protect you from unreasonable benefit demands from trade unions, escape legal troubles due to legal compliance, regulatory compliance in time, reduces risk to month-wise statutory compliance checklist. So this was all the so we generally, as a company, when we grow, we outsource these operations. But when you are a smaller company, you're with 10 members or 15, 20 members, you do it below 20, you do it like you have to actually, you don't have, if you're more than 20, then you go into all those ESI and all those PF and other things come in. So if you are below that, then you try to handle it yourself, and then kind of look into the other compliances. But I'm sure that the next speaker will be talking about taxation, finance, and other matters, where you will be going into deep diving into all those aspects. So we are all governed by this Companies Act of 2013, which is now the standard document, or the act, or the regulatory framework where you all have to follow. So basically, what do you need when you start a business? It's the name, correct? As we all are born, we are given a name, and we live with that name, whether you like it or not, all our life. There are people who change their name, then there's a problem. You need to give a paper ad, you have to give an affidavit, you need to do all that things, and then come back to it, and then so selecting a name of a business is as important as you conducting your own business and maintaining that integrity, because you cannot have a name which will actually kind of create a deceptive similarity, or a deceptive nature in the minds of people. So if I start manufacturing something today, and I want to open a company called Mahindra, or I will open a company called Godrej, or I will open a company called Heritage, I can't do this because they are already registered. They are very famous brands, well-known brands. People are having a repute. So you need to check. So that check would be done by your auditors, your CA, that these are the available names. So once you have, but there are companies also with the same similar names which are there, but definitely that can be done, because I've seen companies having the same names with either they have a plurality or a change of name. But of course, the registrar of companies would do a due diligence and clear it from the Ministry of the Industry Affairs, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. You need to check, and then basically the base rule is that you need to find a name which is very unique, which is very distinct, and which can stand alone as a mark, and in order to be approved by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So the name thus proposed should not bear any resemblance to the names of existing companies or LLPs. So just imagine Apple for a computer. Nobody ever thought that Apple is a computer brand. It's so distinct, it's so unique, it's so fancy, it's so inventive, it's so arbitrary. Rather than just saying, pizza house for selling a pizza, or a dry fruit house, or a mithai wala, or a kind of people who just have descriptive generic names. I think that will not serve the purpose. So please have the first compliances to sort out your name correctly. Have a name which is very, very unique, distinct, think over, and it should not be against the morality of the public, and not be, because tomorrow when you export, when you kind of go into markets, Middle East, when you go into Africa, you need that, whether you translate, because we have seen cases as lawyers that when we translate a trademark in that language, it's offensive, it's abusive, it's It's against the morality of public. So again, you need to coin a new word. So you need to do even that check whether the name which is in English when translated is doesn't hinder your cross-border business actions when you actually go into exporting or trying to do overseas business. So that's very important. Then check for plurals. If the name of chosen if the name chosen for the company is merely the plural version of an existing name, the name is not considered unique. So I can't say my company's name is Radiant Electronics and Appliances Limited. I can't say Radiants. So it's not possible, or Skyquad. So you should actually be unique. Everybody should have their own. And then combining or disjoining of words, arriving at a name by joining or detaching of the words will not be considered as a unique name. So you please think of names, look at new versions, and then factors, easy to search, brand recall, creation of identity, check for plurals, combining or disjoining of words. The name of company should not be any resemblance. So these are some of the checklists which you do. And then coming to, you are all like, there are two types of business. We all agree, either a manufacturing or a service. So for manufacturing, I think the compliances is a more on a higher side, because you have to handle workmen, you have to handle factory, you want to handle a lot of people manufacturing with a lot of shifts, with a lot of work, with a lot of industrial standing orders. If there is a huge trade union, then that's you're gone. So there's a lot of things which you actually have to understand. So these are some of the important, the permissions which you actually have to look at. So when I give you a classic example, we opened a new company for our washing machine recently. And we are still, our commercial production will take place in March or April. So we had to apply for around 5 to 6 permissions, apart from the name of the company, Resolute, which is there. Resolute was the name of the company which will be making washing machines, India's first front load automated washing machine plants. So the manufacturing lines have come in and all that. So we had to apply for a building permission through ILA. Industrial, the authority zone through TSI pass for constructing the building. The second permission was on the factory plan. That is how your factory sheds, how your factory layout, landscaping will be done. The third one was for factory machine, how it will be placed. Layout plan will be building as well as the machines, distance, combine and all that. Then the fourth one was one for groundwater. So you need how much water per day, what would be the thing. So you need to, how many bore wells, that was the fourth permission. Fifth was the electricity permission. So you need to apply for your electricity through the board and all. These are all online, easy. You need to comply. There will be some deficiencies, then you reply, and then it is done. So as per the Telangana government, you're aware that you apply, if you have the piece of the land, which is your registered sale deed or your agreement to sell, your agreement to sale is there, your agreement to sell deed is done. Then you, based on that, the land becomes in your name, and from that day onwards you get a period of 1.5 to 2 years to convert that into a sale deed. That means you have time to construct from the date of your agreement to sell to sale deed. You have a good 1.5 year, I think not 2 years, 1.5 year to construct your factory, start your production. If not, the government generally takes back the land, because the lands are given at a subsidized price. They are given into a different, all these clusters. So you need to be very, very cautious. Apart from that, you need to comply with the GST, then your PAN, your TAN, your TIN, your DIN, an ISO registration, fire, then all that. Then there is something called as IEC. If you are importing and exporting certificate, import-export certificate, your incorporation certificate, building stability certificate, all these needs to be put in place when you are. Then MSME Udyam. MSME Udyam, if you are a micro, small and medium, you have to take that to get the benefit of MSME schemes from the government. And it's just like a PAN card for your own individual. MSME Udyam is, I'm sure you must be aware, you also have, most of them will be having, is that. So this is what is that. So general business, this is mainly for small businesses, which is there. GST, Udyog, if you are a food facile license or registering, import export code, IEC, Gumasta license for a smaller business, shop and establishment, other licenses and registrations. apart from the statutory bank account. So the other one is bank account, which is very important. You need to open a bank account, digital signature, and these are all general thing. I think everybody without a business also will be knowing these are. So this is for the other ones. So now if you see what are the intellectual properties in companies, the IP checklist which you want to no startup should miss on is assigning IP and protecting IP ownership. So it's very important when you join as a startup, to understand that who is the founder of this pre-existing IP, and then employee confidentiality information and IP agreements. So when you're starting a business as a startup and you're taking people on board, you have to have NDAs in place, non-disclosure agreements in place, so that whatever ideas you disclose or you're working on with third parties are protected, and it is there is no loopholes to miss them out. And then if there are IPs which are there, you need to protect the IP ownership, license them IP and modifications. You have to, if suppose the startup itself has an IP, so what it does, it actually protects, it licenses the IP and gives it to multiple people to manufacture, like the boat model of Saman Gupta. I think if you see, most of them have seen him in Shark Tanks. I think the sharks have become more famous in Shark Tanks rather than their own business. Half of them even were not known probably as the startups, but when they started sitting on Shark Tanks to invest and hear them, I think people started following them, they themselves got a huge surge in their social media following. Their business started developing, people started identifying their net worths, and their investments portfolio increased. So that's how things change when you actually do. So you need to have licensed IPs and take them in a proper way, because tomorrow you don't want to lose out when things go wrong, or and things go good, everything is fine. But when things go wrong, I think that's when people understand that. Suppose you're dealing with something on software, then copyright comes into play. So you need to understand who is the author of that software, who has created that software, and then you should buy it out as an owner and understand fair use of that. So and then identify all copyrights of interest, review material works made for hire, evaluate the company's policy, and give due credit, and then acknowledge, and then hire people. And then coming to patents, you have this 1 year statutory bar. When you publish any application, then you can actually file a patent within 1 year. If you have accidentally published in a journal or in a particular government certified program, you can look in. So there is a 1 year statutory bar for you, but then basically you can look into. But the best thing is to file a provisional and block your idea, discuss with people before discussing, and then identify patents that have expired also, because I have seen that people have used expired patents and solved their in-house problems. When I was in Chennai in 2014-15, I came across the factory vice president of Saint-Gobain, who was into glass. I know Saint-Gobain is into glass manufacturing, which is a French giant company. They used expired patents from the Indian Patent Office and then used those to use in their production lines, and saved almost $500,000 by using a expired patent used in process of glass industry, which was filed by somebody else. So you should actually, as entrepreneurs, also look into defensive form of IP, which is looking into patents which have expired, get into idea zone and do that. So then there are other elements when you consider your business are trade secrets and trademarks. So trade secrets will preserve the confidentiality, limit control access, obtain list of known material trade secrets. So these are some of the when I go into the details of IP, we will actually understand what exactly is what type of intellectual property rights. And then you should understand which trademarks you're dealing with as a company, or you're trying to acquire or to buy, or when you're opening your own brands, you have to be very clear in your mind that you don't, step into other zones. So that's very, very essential. Otherwise, you will end up into a litigation which is like very, which will drain you out rather than working and doing new businesses and all. So the IP framework for helping business is that it creates a relevance to you, because businesses are financially successful only to the extent they provide what consumers want. So if you are, the IP gives you that relevance, because it gives you a sense of quality in people, that why they want to actually buy you out, because you have a good strong IP, you have a differentiator, you have a strong brand which you have created over the years, a good goodwill. So, and then unfortunately in India, IP is not being offered as a collateral in banks. But some banks were planning to do it, but with the episode of the Vijay Mallya's thing, where his brand was kept as mortgage for 800 crores, the Kingfisher brand, and then we all knew what happened with the Kingfisher brand and where today it stands. So people are having an element of doubt that whatever IP you create, you might not get a loan, or you might not get a mortgage on that. But definitely, I heard the government saying that they're working on a model with RBI regulators and bankers to come out with a particular policy to actually fund IP, and then give a loan based on mortgaging IP. So there'll be a good days ahead if you have a good IP to then mortgage your IP and then get loan, rather than keeping your assets or properties or any other for collateral. So that is a thing to ponder for today's session for all of you, that if you have a good brand or an IP, you can look into, because banks in future, I'm sure, will look into this, and once the government diktat or a policies comes in, things will change. So then scarcity, the less available a good or service, the higher the price it commands. So that's how you actually, so you make a miniature model or an what do you say, a branded model or a limited edition of watches or something like that. Then I think the higher price it commands. So you can, if you have an IP, so you are the owner of that. So you can play around with the market. You can actually, but there are things where you should not be anti-competitive, and you have to be along with the rules of the game. So exclusivity is, again, you get exclusive items can be made, so it's your distribution is yours, and then affinity branding, so everything is in your playground. Once you own something, just like your own house, you can do around, you can actually sell, give, mortgage, rent it out. The same thing happens. It's just like a kind of a real estate. So regular investigation of IP in companies is to prepare, revise product representations and warranties, prepare policies, identify assets, register IP assets with government agencies, review. So this is what is an IP strategy looks like when you try to do. So today, just to go to the next half of the presentation, I think we will be talking about intellectual property rights. I think intellectual property rights, I'm sure you all have aware that it's a creation of mind. It's a creation of your thoughts, your ideas into something tangible. It is something which is given in writing, or a poem, or an idea, or a product, or a process, which actually gives solutions to technical problems. And to most of us, IPR is still an obscure legal concept with little relevance in everyday life. So some people think that it doesn't affect our life, but we are all surrounded by IP. From the day from a newspaper we pick up in the morning, which is a brand, to the phone which we use, the vehicle we drive, now the EVs, your main things, or your chat GPT, the AI open is the biggest innovation of IP, where so there is huge demand of how intellectual property rights will shape us, because tomorrow there is AI coming in. So who will own the IP? If you can do your work through AI, you will ask AI to write a poem. So the AI will articulate, it will innovate and come out with the poem. Then who owns the poem? Whether the chat robot owns the poem, or the person who has given the command. So these are some of the questions I think which you will ponder. So did you know that IP is always with you? So the backpack is a world of IP, books, laptop, and other accessories, or any given day, all are surrounded. The music you listen, the phone, then Spotify, and all that. So you will not realize how IP is affecting your world and how you can create that unique thing. So when your creation is unique, you get a unique feeling. And then I was listening in this session called IP Manthan a few days back. I heard a speaker quoting that, IP is not about startups or entrepreneurship or technology or licensing or value or money. IP is about knowledge. IP is about respecting the knowledge. IP is about the inside inherent knowledge of yours, which you have to understand. So when you try to respect somebody else's knowledge, the other person also tries to respect this. But when you try to exploit this knowledge and commercialize it without giving due credit, then the enforcement of IP comes into play, and that time you need to be very cautious to understand. You have to understand the thing. So introduction to IPR is that just like you have tangible and intangible assets like land, labor, capital, today you have knowledge, information, creativity, inventiveness, and idea. So data. The third one I would say is data, the sixth one. The data is the new oil, which I think everybody knows. If you have a data today, anything can be done in this world. I think you will agree with us. You want to you want to learn something, you want to do something, you want to manage something. You just need a smartphone and an internet or a computer, and you can. But even a YouTuber can earn more than a coder, or a coder can earn more than an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur can actually, earn more than I don't know, more than an MNC, probably a small MNC, which is actually shaping. I would not say an MSME, not an MNC, sorry, an MSME, a single entrepreneur starting from. So things have changed drastically. There is a huge disruption in this world. So it is all about how you present this knowledge faster and bring it into a table, analyze it with critical thinking and expressive, critical thinking and expressing uniquely with what is important for you all as entrepreneurs. So please remember this: critical thinking and expressive ideation, expressive enforcement, that is bringing the ideas into action, is what will demarcate or differentiate you. So if you see today's value today from the source called ION, if you see, there is 25.3 trillion of the world's economy is totally based on intangible assets. So it's like, and these are the companies like which have like Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook. These are the intangible assets from what it was there. So it was way back in 1975, it was 715 billion, which moved to 1.5 trillion, and then 4.5, and then these companies in 2018, just imagine, are contributing 25.3 trillion. In that, the intangible is $21 trillion. So I think this other 4 trillion would be their assets, like the buildings and all that. So when you do a merger acquisition today, I think they don't value you for your land, which is one of the factors which is depreciating or which will be there, or your machineries on the capital investment is one. The other one is your intellectual investment or the output, which is very important. So that gives you more valuation, more worth in the market. But it is difficult to value, as they say, and it is difficult to insure also. So, but still, if you see today's world, earlier there were a lot of understanding about the components of S&P, the 500 market values, the rise of intangible assets. So today, currently, 90% of the assets are intangible assets and 10% are tangible assets. So that is how the world is shaping up. And this will also go when a day comes that you can operate without having any tangible assets. So you can actually just be there on the cloud and deliver your services, get the money, and then you don't need a physical structure or in this metaverse. So that is how things will shape up. So you don't need you to be on physically present to deliver services. Of course, for products also you need a warehouse, supply chain, a good kind of people who would actually help you, assist you. But definitely, this is the world which will be changing over the time. And then IP, as I said, it refers to the creation of mind. It covers a vast range of activities and plays an important role in both cultural and societal, increase in incremental growth. So you think of an idea or an invention or produce works of art, solve any problem, novel or unconventional approach, that's an IP. So it's a thought, it's a plan or a suggestion for a problem. So that's everybody thinks an idea can change a life. We thought that, when the ad has come, little did we understand that really it will change people's life. But definitely, yes, that's how people have changed. A smartphone has changed life. Now 5G has come to change the life. But work has already begun for 6G. Work has already begun for many things. Like recently, the Formula E was held here. The third generation EV cars, which was there, was one of the fastest EV car on the planet, where you have a lot of technology going in, a lot of new ideas coming in, a lot of new processes inside the car. So that is how you things shape up. So why does IP matter is because it helps our favorite designers, musicians, artists, writers, filmmakers to carry on their creative thinking and writing to enjoy. So if you can give due credit to them and you are getting your credit, the chain is maintained, and then everybody enjoys the fruits of this, rather than you trying to take somebody's IP or trying to make money and you infringe, they infringe yours. Then it will be a kind of a chaos and a kind of totally a haywire which is there, and then people will not proceed in a particular way. That's the reason. So why does IP matter? Because you need the funding, you need the money, and then you are, if you're a small bigger shark, you will actually eat up the smaller ones. But if you are a good, if you have a good IP, you can, as David, stand against a big Goliath. So that's how I would say David versus Goliath. It's not about only being small. How David stood against Goliath, you can, if you have a good IP, can stand against a big company if you're firm on your IP and the way you strategize. So that's very important. So then next is right of IP holders. So as just like your tangible assets, you use, license, sell, mortgage, abandon. The house also, you just in same like house, you live, rent, sell, mortgage. You can do the same with your IPs. Either you use your patent, trademark, copyright, designs, license it, sell it, mortgage it, or abandon it. So this is what is the slide which I would like you all to pay a little attention, where you will understand where the buckets of IP comes in. So various verticals. If you have an idea and you are expressing into a different format, so writing a book or a poem or a literature or a essay, it comes into copyright. So any literature, artistic, sound recordings, work of art, music, theater, all comes under copyright, films and all that. So anything which is related to innovation or invention, which has some kind of a process or an incremental solution for a technology problem, then it comes under patents. And then anything which is to deal with an identity or a will or a goodwill or a characteristic in that particular product, it's like standalone, is a trademark. And then appearance, design. Design is something, the aesthetics, which is very, very essential for today's world. See, I would say that earlier the world was already being, looked at people were competing in price. Today's world is competing in quality. Tomorrow's world will compete in design. So world-class designs will really give you that edge. Just imagine if I would like to wear a sneaker which nobody has ever worn, and that sneaker would be a design which when I walk on the street, people will like to see that sneaker. And whether I want to wear a watch, which is a designer watch, or whether it is a car which is very, very fancy, very, very attractive in looks, it has the power to, lure my buying power. That's how lucrative it is. So anything which is appealing to the human eye, you will definitely sell in today's world, and will be continuing, because technology is underlying. Brand you cannot touch and feel, but design is something which you see with your own eyes. So that is the IP which can, as entrepreneurs, you should think on. That if you're not able to file a patent for a product which is already there, why don't I design it into a particular, package it into a particular way that the world will get excited and I will sell a lot of products, create a brand, create a unique identity, and then start going into the market. So that's because there's the IP which you can see. Trademark, you can only get the feel of a brand, but you cannot understand what goes into the brand. Like I can buy a Nike, but I know that Nike is a great brand, or a Adidas or a Puma or anything, but I just only will feel that, okay, I've bought a brand. But when I see a design of a new shoes or a car, I know that yes, this design stands out. People are aware, because that's the first thing. The brand, everybody will not be aware of brands, but design, everybody will see a shape or a configuration. That's how things change. And then trade secrets. I think that is very important. So trade secrets are very important form of IP. The Coca-Cola formulation, the KFC formulation, so these are kept secrets, and these have high commercial value, and the companies have done due diligence to keep them secret, and they have taken necessary steps to keep them secret, and these are used for business success. Just a mere list of clients or list of some vendors or list of some distributors are not trade secrets. Any formulae, any recipe, any kind of high profile distributor. Suppose I want to launch a product today and I have 500 distributors which nobody else knows, so that is my trade secret. So I can launch that product in 500 places in India today at a click of a button through my network. So that is my trade secret, which my competitor might not have. He might have around 100 dealers or 100 distributors. So that is my trade secret, from where I can actually work, from where I can actually take advantage. So then let's go into a detail, and then probably we'll wind up in another 10 minutes, and then take questions. So a patent is an exclusive right which is granted by the government for a new, useful and non-obvious invention. So patents are for invention for products and process. It is granted for a limited period of time. It's for 20 years from the date of filing. So if you file a patent today, in a smooth sailing case, it is granted in a period of 2 to 3 years now. Earlier, it used to take 7 to 8 years for a patent to be granted. But today, it is only 2 to 3 years in a smooth sailing case. If your prosecution is good, you're replying to the objections, if you're complying faster, you can get it a grant faster. We have seen patents granted in 1.5 to 2 years now, or a little less than in fast track. So if you're in startup, you can ask to fast track by paying a particular fees to fast track your examination, fast track your prosecution, and get it done, because your investors can't wait, or they want a patent granted, or you want further expansion of investments and all that. So, and then a right to exclude an infringer from making, using, selling, or importing an invention. So it's a negative right. A patent is a negative right. So it's an exclusive monopolistic right. It's a negative right because it excludes others from making, using, selling, or importing that particular invention for that period of time. And invention is a generation of new ideas aimed at solving a tech problem, whereas innovation concerns the commercialization of the new ideas. So if you see, innovations are more to do with commercialization. If you have an invention but you don't commercialize, it is not an innovation. Innovation is something you work around the invention, talk to investors, talk to network partners, talk to financiers, talk to the market, talk to the entire chain supply people who are around you, and then commercialize it. Then it becomes an innovation. Otherwise, I think it from lab to market, this is the journey is very, very what do you say? It's like a very, very tough one with a lot of hurdles which comes in: financial, legal, statutory, IP. A lot of things come in the life of an entrepreneur. So you need to be ready, you need to be accustomed, you need to be aware of these facts. And then patents, why you want to file a patent? Because disadvantages, it is costly at times, so lengthy procedure, no tangible or guaranteed benefits. So it can be failed. It doesn't mean that you file a patent, you get a grant. It might be rejected by the patent office. So your efforts goes waste. It is a costly affair. If you want to file a patent today, it takes around 40 to 50,000 rupees for filing a patent by using a lawyer. Roughly, I'm giving you an approximate cost in the market. You can actually vary, or you can look into that, but it's no hard and fast set in stone. But definitely it's a cost factor. Then you have to maintain the patent, renew it every year, then only it is in vogue and all that. So definitely it is a cost factor. It's like having a good elephant, provided you can take the elephant out and get a bout of money every time you take the elephant out on a ride or on a display, then it makes sense. Otherwise, you don't want to keep the elephant at your backyard and then drain out the money. So that's how it is. So you need to understand. Advantages is prevent copying, slowing down competitors, generate funding, stimulate JVs, enhance brand value. So these are some of the advantages which are immense, which are overpassing the disadvantages. And what can be patented is using a product as door lock as an example. A door lock, chemical composition in lubricants for door locks, a machine for making door locks, or a method for making door locks, an improvement or any of this. So it is as simple as this. It is not that anything which is like complex that you have to put your rocket propeller engine on in space, or you can put a chip on the human body, or you can put a things not as that complex. It can be anything. It can be making door locks, it can be making any recipe or something like that, or making a ingredient which is adding value to that thing output. It can be a patented technology, a bidirectional grinding of the wheels, the blades of the mixie rotor is a patented technology. The same technology of the directional grinding was used in rotary plow, where the plowing machine was actually doing, the blades were used on a tractor, and a patent was granted where the blades of the plow was actually plowing the field and also throwing away the mud, so that it is doing two things in one. So once you plow, you have to first dig the soil, and then you have to remove the mud, and then again put a kind of throw the mud away, and then put a layer and start sowing the seeds. So this device was doing both the things. It was digging and also it was plowing the soil. So so that is how this technology was applied on the fields, and it got a patent for it. So you have to understand that you can actually look at such ideas where you can take stands or cue from to get into the realm of ideating or taking IP to the next level. So industrial designs, as I said, is an aspect which is ornamental, nothing to do with functionality. So all these Formula E cars which were here, or the Formula One cars, they're all not filed their patents for designs. They have filed their patents for the patents for the technology, the powertrain which they were using at the front end or the back end of the powertrain of the car, which was used to actually do a lot of aerodynamics, to save energy, to generate more electricity, to propel the car faster, to have the motor. So because every car looks the same, so you can't file a design for a Formula E car. What is the differentiating factor on that? So designs can be for a table lamp, for an air conditioner, for a mobile phone, for a mouse, for a laptop. So it has to be a three-dimensional things. Buildings, then buildings of architectural buildings are not design patented, but prefabricated structures, which are like small watchman cabins or temporary structures, can be of designs, but not big buildings, which are like, if you know that the Empire State Building or the Trump Towers or Ambani's building of 27 floors, Antilla, is a beautiful building which looks like a stack of books which are into a different thing. It's a good design, but it can't be that's the reason it's called industrial design, where you can actually make the design by an industrial process. So that is how it is. Trademarks is the next form of IP, which is applied to brands. It's a sign, it's a combination of logos, goods, for which distinguishes the goods or services of one enterprises or the another. It is a sign used on goods or in connection with the marketing of goods. A trademark may appear or not only on the goods themselves, but also on the container or the wrapper of the goods sold. So these are some of the brands on the right side. Our own brand Resolute for IP was designed by us. So Resolute for IP, and the tagline: ideate, create, protect, manage. So it's a classic example which we did in-house. So Resolute for IP. So our own brand is Resolute was a group company, and for IP we created. So that is how we designed our own brand. So it's a service brand, it's a service mark. Yeah, but we have not filed a trademark. But yes, in India, you don't need to file a trademark to get a protection or enforcement. You can. We follow a common law remedy country. We are a common law remedy country, so we do not. We don't have to file. It's not compulsory to file a trademark or a copyright. The moment you write anything, by default, if you put a C, copyright reserved with the year, you are getting the copyright. Trademark also, when you are the first to use, adopt, the mark is the owner of the trademark. But why we advocate is that tomorrow, if there is a litigation or there is a passing off or there is an infringement, then you will not have to fight it out in the court, prove your case. So it's better that that certificate speaks volumes and the court accepts that, rather than you going back to your drawing book, telling that this is my trademark and all that. So it's very essential, and then it helps you in getting relief for passing off, but not for infringement. If somebody is trying to copy your mark and you're not registered it, you will not get damages for it. You will the court will only injunct and stop them from continuing. But if your mark is registered and they are infringing, then you can claim the losses which you have incurred by using of the other mark, and they will be paid, and they will pay you damages also. So that is how we advocate to file trademarks. And you as entrepreneurs should advocate strongly to your own fellow entrepreneurs, your own ecosystem, to file more of trademarks, designs, and copyrights for your manuals and all that. But patents, of course, if you are having a product or a service which you feel unique in the world, not only in India, and has a novelty, inventive step, and industrial application, you could file for it. And then copyright, yes, as I said, it has to be original. It must be an expression and not a mere idea. So if idea is that I can paint a sunset today, and the same sunset can be painted by you, but I can paint a sunset against a mountain, but whereas you paint a sunset against a ocean. So both are copyrights, because I can't claim the sun or the sunset or the things which are there. I can draw a horse, that is my copyright. So that doesn't mean nobody else can draw a horse. Okay, so you can express the horse in something else. It's riding, it's eating grass, or it is a different color, or it's into different shape. So every answer script of students also is a copyright. So everything is a matter of copyrights, provided it comes out. So did you know J.K. Rowling? I'm sure that you're all aware. Nobody needs any introduction, or even a child to senior citizen is aware of this, that and she was the first one who wrote the book Harry Potter. And when she was very poor, but she owned the copyright in her book, the story, the characters, and she was the only person allowed to make copies of the book, right, to produce a film or a story and sell them. And she gave permission to publishing company to do it in return for payment. And without copyright, anyone else could have printed copies and make movies as soon as it was published. So that is how you have. She has given the rights to adopt, make, and broadcast, or whatever, So all rights reserved. If you see, when a copyright comes in, people say all rights reserved. So that means it is very essential. So intellectual property rights are divided into these things: patent, copyright, C with a circle, R is for a trademark when granted, and others are designs, geographical indications, semiconductors, plant varieties, and trade secrets. So these are the geographical indications. Again, you have this Hyderabad Halim. It's a community community IP. All IPs are owned by individuals. Please understand that. Whereas GIs are owned by societies, or owned by a group of community, or a society, or a association, or a community which is there. And whereas the others are individual driven or company driven, or anybody can own. And the life term of patent is 20 years. Copyright is 50 to 70 years from the date of the author. Trademark is perpetual. It's the only IP which is perpetual, which means that every 10 years you renew. Till time immemorial, your logo remains the same until you decide to change it and then refile it afresh. So that is one product, many IP rights. So you see this. You have the trademark, the copyright, the patents, the designs, the trade secrets in one phone. So every product has multiple IPs. It goes without saying. So I will not tell much of this. And then one product, many IP rights. Again, if you see, Colonel Sanders thus had the method of enforcement to initially squelch competition, plus something to sell to others. So KFC, and then all the image, copyright specific drawings, TV ads, all these are patents. Coding of the chicken is a matter, designs, unique packaging items, trade secrets. So all these. So getting to protecting IP. So you have a unique idea, keep copies of it, sign and date, publish or not to publish, read of the laws of the sector, and then others keep written records, term sheets, employment agreements, and confidentiality agreements. Then you have to do your part. Others, when you're working with others, you have to do written records, term sheets, and all. Think of a brand, distinctiveness, recall value, get a lawyer to file, and then technical assistance. You need to understand copy control, access controls, digital support, and all that. So that is how you plan your strategy as an entrepreneur. And protecting your IP, copyright, I said no filing needed. Use of C, trademark filing is required, but not totally mandatory. But yes, it is better once you file, you put TM and register R there. Patents is that filing required, prior art search. These are some of the websites which I will leave the presentation here. So when to file your IP, before making it public, you use or you're going to discuss your idea with somebody, you need to file an provisional IP, that is patent or a design. But for trademarks, copyrights, you don't. You can free to use your trademark brand in the market. The more you use, the more it gets into reputed use and it becomes distinct, and you have a very large first user advantage of selling and usage of the mark. So it becomes old. Purana chawal, jisko bolte hai. Old rice, it becomes very famous. So that's how. So before a product launch, so these are the things you have to see. And then IP in a product cycle, when you conceptualize, you have to work, your R&D and design team has to work together with your branding team. So then the output, the entire cycle should be in the product life cycle. It cannot be that you have the idea today and when your product launch, you're trying to file. The moment you have your drawings, your dashboard, your back-end things, you start filing patents, name your product, brand your product, design your product. And then when you're ready with all these, you file and go for commercialization. That's a good strategy. So improving an existing product, if you're looking at already, then you should have your own solution and then make it new product. That new solution can be, your invention cannot be patented, but if it can be distinguished from the previous invention. So if you have to have that one inventive step, that's the reason you say that you should have an inventive step. So already existing plus your invention, your solution, new product, then can be patented. So law, what you should know. I want to file a world patent, not possible. There is nothing called as world patent, okay? International patent is also. There's something called as international patent filing system, which means that you file one application in one language with one set of fees, patent cooperation treaty, you can actually go to different countries. India, EU and others all over the world, it is first to file. So whoever goes into the first to the patent office, he gets the first right. So and world over. In the US before March 2013, it was first to invent, but now it is first to file world over. Software in India, algorithms are not patentable. Software and business method patents only allowed in the US to certain extent. How you write, draft, that's a technical document. Again, you need to get into deep dive into this. IP infringement is a criminal and civil offense in some countries. In India, trademark, copyright is criminal infringement, whereas patent and designs is civil remedies with damages and things like that. But it's very offensive. If you're doing a copyright, you might be jailed. Your copies, your website will be got down. That's how your pirated copies will be burned down. There'll be a raid. There'll be a seizure. There'll be a seizure of goods, and your goods will be fortified, destroyed. So it's a heinous crime if you try to steal your copyrights or designs or anything which is criminal remedies are available. So public disclosure is essential only after you file, protects your idea. Priority date is the date when you file your first application. Prior art is something these are some of the jargons which I will not go through deeply. You can take your time and understand, because dumping too much on day one would be a kind of challenge, but this is what. So Apple holds over 1,000 patents relating to iPhone. So this patents covers things like voice control, camera functionality, user interface, battery power technology, synchronizing. Now wireless charging is there, the new technology, the new iPhone 14 or the OS systems and their ways. So these are all patents, more than 1,000 patents on one product, just imagine. And then there are also knowledge is for free. The WW, the internet, the Matchbox, the karaoke. So people have also other side of the world there. People have chose to give knowledge for free. But when you try using knowledge for free and make money from others, then it is a crime. That's what you can. If you are wanting to learn something from somebody's knowledge, it is good. So then post it. These are inventions which have failed but become world-class inventions later. So there was this scientist which was trying to make an adhesive gum for industry, but somehow the gum was so weak that it didn't develop, and then it worked, and then they have applied one day the idea of silver's weak glue could keep his bookmark from falling while still allowing him to remove it easily without damaging the book. So that came the post-it, which you start using in world over. Then the burger patty mold was designed by the National Center Research for Meat here. We protected it under the industrial design here, NRC Meat. Dr. Muthukumar is the person I remember who was the scientist who filed. In fact, we filed this design and got a design patent for it. So that's how it is. The last slide, intellectual property rights. If you think it, protect it, because if it is worth copying, it is worth protecting. So everybody appreciates twins. in life, but you cannot don't appreciate twins of products. It's like copying somebody's product. So if you have a twin children, people come and congratulate you. But if you try to make a twin copy of a product or try to copy, I think people will put you behind the bars, or they will not like it, and you might have to face the music later on. So with this, I think thank you for your attention. I think that is what I wanted to convey today, and I hope this session was interactive and sorry, I think now I'm open to questions. I think it was good and informative. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So I'm ready to take any questions. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello. So great session, so delivered by you. Very knowledgeable. My name is Navid. Actually, I'm a founder of a health and wellness company. Okay. So my question is that a unique skill can be patented. Something you deliver. It is an incremental innovation, and you do it in your own way to produce a result. So that skill or that process of doing something can be patented.
That's a good question, actually. See, unique skills. See, skills are something which you learn over the time. So there might be a skill. Somebody is good at doing a surgery. Somebody is doing at playing a musical instrument, or somebody is doing a solving problems thing. But in case you're skilling something which is a business method, suppose the Zomato model or the Uber model, which is these are skills which are put into a software and hardware, and you're making money and a unique model. But skills per se, suppose if I am a good football player, the way Ronaldo plays a football can be put into a game, and that game can get a software and you can get a IP for it. But Ronaldo himself cannot be, nobody can kind of, there's no IP for a game or a, so that's the thing. If you start playing if you start like method of playing games or skilling are not patentable per se, but definitely if you make it into a product or a process which is giving you business, then that can go in. Like if you make a skill module, and so suppose like Byju's is a skilling platform, so that platform is patentable. The idea of technical and hardware as well as software giving money, a revenue model, and also the brand is an IP. But skill per se, a tuition teacher teaching, skilling, the way of playing chess or doing delivering something is not patentable.
Thank you, sir. Got it.
You have to make it tangible, product based, and then give it into a fix it into a tradable commodity. Then only it gets an IP.
I meant that only, sir. That because from that unique skill or structure, so I've created a process which is a kind of unique process, which is I've termed as like uh, how to say that it is like process that I've designed to, I mean, give a certain sort of a result. Okay, it's uniquely. I do it uniquely. I said that I do it uniquely. So that is I wanted to get that, and you said that that can be patentable when it is when you have a commercial interest or commercial method to doing thing and produce a result. So
Of
that
course,
is I got
we
that.
could explore. We could definitely explore. You can actually write to us, and then through Dr. Basha, through our center, let us explore. I'm not saying that outrightly. If it is, you can
Yeah,
first
yeah,
create your
I
own
got it.
brand when you deliver that, and
Yeah,
definitely if there's a technology element to it and there is a inventive solution, we can explore for a patent for it.
yeah, got it. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? I think our so I'll be happy to take.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. This session was very informative, and I hope all the participants learned something today. And so I would let you all know that there is just a 5 minutes break, and then we'll resume for our session two in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the day 3 and session 2 of the day. This second session's resource person is CA Vineet, Suman, Darda, Managing Partner, Darda Advisors LLP. Sir is going to take the session on understanding finance, taxation, and budgeting. I welcome you, sir, and I request you to please go ahead with the session. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, IT. Can I share my screen?
Sure, sir. I'll give you the access to it, sir. Just a second.
Can you see my screen, IT?
Yes, it's visible, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's moving also, correct? It's moving also, correct?
No.
Slides are moving?
No, sir. No, sir.
Just a minute. Now the screens are moving? Lights
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thanks, IT, and good afternoon, all. I am Vineet Suman. I am part of.
You're on mute, Vineet ji. I think slides are moving.
No, I am not on mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Vineet Suman, part of Data Advisors, and thanks to the Osmania Technology Business Incubator and also to Mr. Subajith Saha, who requested, and I am looking this case part for that. Today's topic is mainly for the startups and entrepreneurs on the key aspect, which is basic not only for the startup but also for small and medium MSME companies. Today's topic for my side is on the accounting, auditing, and financial planning type of legal entity for startups. So before complete session will be in the 3 parts. One is on the accounting, auditing, and financial planning for startups. Second, on the key incentives from the central and state governments to startups based on sector and overall. And third is which type of legal entity we should take it to ensure that you are completely compliant, it's more user friendly, and also it's a tax planning perspective, how it's helping you. So if you ask me, bookkeeping, which is a very traditional aspect, but no one can avoid it. It's like a C is the mother of all languages in the tech area. Same way, the bookkeeping is the basic part for looking to each part, whether from accounting, auditing, financial planning, budgeting, and all aspects. It's a mother of all aspects to be looked into it. And being a startups, when the initial level is mainly to ensure that you are on the track, you are able to develop your products or services, and then you go to market. The initial phase also looks into part where you need to incur expense from your own or from initial seed funding. How the way the bookkeeping is ensured, how the way professional bookkeeping is taken into picture, that helps to decide how the startups phase out and do a more better way in future. So before we go into the bookkeeping and all, yes, startups are in India, the way they're growing, the Indian government is promoting. We are in diverse sector. In today, I've seen so many people are coming from healthcare and tech background. all are concentrating on Indian market. If you see, the major startups are mainly concentrating how the way Indian market is getting tapped. The second main level come for the exports and other part. So India itself is a big market where people are growing and exploring it. Yes, the way from last 10 to 12 years we have seen the journey, entrepreneurial spirit is coming into the all people, all youngsters, even from the college days, to ensure that wherever they have the interest or hobby, how to ensure that it become a purely a business area or a commercial area they can tap through a startup. Yes, being in India, strong talent pool, especially South India, where engineering, tech talent are available in a lot. That's why even you see a Bangalore and Chennai, now even Hyderabad is growing as a startup hub in South India. There's so many government policies. The way the startup India concept came into picture through DPIIT, and the way every state government is taking interest and creating their own setup, creating their own phases, creating their own incentive policy separately for startups. It's open that now each and every government want people to go and start their entrepreneur life cycle, and wherever they need support, yes, government will go and support them. So what we have seen based on one of the research, how the way you can say which factors decides whether startup successful or not. Because India now have more than 100 plus unicorn, and even we are talking decacorn also as a new part where $10 billion more than you have the valuation. Obviously, the more percentage given by the research on the 200 companies plus on timing, second to team and execution. And today, what I'm talking to you about the accounting, auditing, and financial planning comes into execution part. Then comes the third, your idea. We decide whether it's resolve the issue of a common man or not, on how it get take to the market, your business model, and finally funding. At time to time, the funding is coming to a startup. Obviously, it will grow at faster pace. We are talking about the mother of all the compliance and all the aspects from accounting, auditing, and financial planning is the bookkeeping. And professional bookkeeping can be done having the journal entry, having the ledger, having TB. Nowadays, so many, even the cloud-based or non-cloud-based softwares are available, which helps to have a more faster bookkeeping to do it. But still the way the Indian law is changing, if you see the IFRS, Ind AS, slowly it may go to implement also to small companies. Then obviously the bookkeeping should have the enough knowledge about the aspect which needs to be taken care based on the sector, based on the nature of entity, based on your transaction, based on your location, all will decide how you're doing it. The question comes, why anyone should have a bookkeeping? Because when a startups grow or incubate, obviously he will be more worried about the business aspect. Why should he go into the such aspect which can be taken care by other professionals or might be in-house, all depend on the initial phase of the startup. The way the more strong base you create in the initial days, it will ensure that you are a more legal and compliant company and having more strong fundamental. So tomorrow, if you're looking for a higher funding or any new rounds and all, obviously your bookkeeping, accounting will play a big role. So first and foremost, yes, legal compliance. Nowadays, even GST came into picture. We are running in 6th year. The GST ensured that people should have a bookkeeping. If you ask me, before GST, it was not mandatory, indirectly because people used to do kacha chitta putta also, and they used to just pay income tax on their own estimate and they will do it. But now the way the transactions are getting recorded, the way GST, income tax portal, the customs portal, the MCA portal are interconnected. It means the way the day you're putting an entry of particular sale of any product or services, getting reflected in your GST portal, also getting reported to the income tax, then also reporting based on your transaction of import, export to customs. Also in MCA, when you submit your annual report, it gets reported. Financial management, yes. For any company for having effective financial management decision making, bookkeeping is must in proper way. What we have seen whenever someone do a data entry for a bookkeeping, generally we neglect it because generally it's a traditional work which does not have any value add, which is to always view the people. But one wrong entry in the journal gives you complete a wrong picture at TB or financial level. That initial seed as part of bookkeeping should be accurate to ensure that your complete financial management and aspect into picture. Now that tax is based on your books, and books are dependent on your bookkeeping and accounting. So obviously, your cash flow management will also be on track, so that tomorrow you don't need to worry about what is going in out and you're not aware of. And mostly what I've seen, people are also going to B2C segment, B2G, B2B. Especially in B2C, a proper cash flow management is very important. Look into it. Yes, the way I am flowing and the way the transaction are moving. Yes, I am a positive cash flow or a negative cash flow person. You can monitor your performance on weekly, fortnightly basis if you have proper bookkeeping in your records. More important is your investor confidence. The more compliant startups are more considered by the angel or a VC or at higher level other two players. Reason is simple. If you see, one news came from last 1 month, one startup got the funding. On second round, they asked some Big Four to do a due diligence, and they found so many gaps in their specific bookkeeping, in the transaction all, and they lost the confidence of the investor. And now they are declaring what happened, and they are now not able to turn out around 750 people as exit from their company. So another part which you can see, it helps you for proper planning. Maybe it's a time consuming, it's a complex, maybe you will see, we will do it later on. But mostly in the startups, they will believe we will do in year end or we will do it quarterly basis. That approach does not help, because nowadays the way the startups are growing, you don't know whether in the next 3 months which will go the next round, or the way you need a funding, all will decide how it works. So now I discuss about the next part, which is again a third party involvement on the startups. Sometimes it's compulsory from the law perspective. Sometimes people decide to have an independent examination of books of account, so that you decide whether or not whatever bookkeeping done by accountant or third party are in compliance with the law or not. Is there any gaps? Is there any internal control issue, or is there any other part also? So yes, any legal entity required to be audited, mostly the companies, compulsory under the companies law, which we call the statutory audit, and tax audit under the Income Tax Act. And if we talk about for LLP, it's a limited liability partnership concept, which we will discuss also in later way, which type of legal entity is relevant for your startups. You need a LLP audit more than 40 lakh turnover, or a contribution exceed 25 lakh in any year. Any private limited company needs to do the audit through a third party, which is a chartered accountant, within 30 days. Now we need to understand that yes, one thing is compliant from a law perspective, and one thing is how the way auditor helps, whether required or not from law, should I still get it done or not? Next part is a tax audit, which is required under the Income Tax Act, and obviously is only for the people who being the more than 1 crore of business and 50 lakh of professionals. And now this limit has also been increased for presumptive tax under this current budget. So mainly why we need two audit in India, one is from a Companies Act and one is from a Income Tax Act. Because Companies Act gives you a financial based on accounting standard or based on a depreciation rate given under a company's law. But depreciation rate and deduction permissibility of expense, like for CSR, company law allowed you to take CSR as deductible expense, but in income tax is not allowed. It means your profit will be lower under Companies Act, but from income tax it will be higher, and you need to pay the income tax on that amount also. And recently in the GST, they disallowed the GST credit on the CSR activity, which is corporate social responsibility. It means again your tax payment will be on higher side. And it also give you your detailed information which is required from a tax return perspective, because your ITR will be also based on that also. It will also go by auditor findings. Tomorrow, if any scrutiny happens, first even the income tax exchequer check first your tax audit report in ITR, and then only they start a scrutiny or investigation further. So being when you're appointing a third party auditor who comes and do a financial aspect, will prepare your account, prepare your financial statement based on the bookkeeping and accounting done by your third party auditor or your in-house auditor. He also bring value add. Why I'm telling you this point? Because when the person is coming and doing the audit for a company, he can bring the experience what is to other state sectors or for a similar sectors. How the way the book should be taken record of, any gaps in the audit or bookkeeping done by your accountant, all he will look into it. So first and foremost, yes, statutory compliance you need to comply with. If you are not doing it, you are not submitting online based on your status of your entity, whether LLP or company or a 1% company or a listed company, you will have the own implication under this respective law. It also helps you BPI, your business process improvement, because he will look into it in your internal process, your systems, your control. For example, if the party who is approver for expense and also have an authority to withdraw from account, that's a big gap in the internal control. If the same party who is doing, then there will be no control. Tomorrow any big fraud or any gap happened, then who will be responsible? It also have a reputation. We have seen so many incidents happen where any big four or any auditor have disqualified a report, or they are withdrawn as an auditor due to issues which are not able to settle between the promoter of the company and auditor for the clarification or disclosure on the books of account. So they need to disclose on a pending case loss, whether the company is solvent or not, how the way reportings are done, are there any gaps in the specific things. If you see an audit report, it gives you enough indication how the way companies performed in previous year and how it looks healthy or not for a future part. So obviously, fraud identification is not responsibility of the auditor. It's separate, we call it a forensic auditor who come into picture. But major aspect which can be looked into by the open eye who understand the financial, they can tell you all the loopholes, but they can tell you how the systems are being misused or potential to misuse based on any system flaw. And it will give early detection. When you know certain things are coming add-on to you in the name of audit, obviously it can help you in early identification and prevention of fraud. Yes, it helps you in better decision making, because when you know how to have a cash flow, how your top line and bottom line looks from a financial on the ground, obviously you will be able to decide how the way my future next 1 year or 2 year looks into it, whether I need a funding or not, or I should go for a corporate funding or a seed funding or any other level of funding. So now we understood that bookkeeping is the mother of all the financial compliance aspects. Why we need to do audit, how the independent auditor who comes into picture and look into its various aspects. It's not only statutory compliance, it's beyond that, which helps you in a number of aspects, including the fraud detection to an extent. Now comes your taxation. So India is a country, even after GST, we have still multiple laws into existence. So obviously for your income, you pay income tax, and there are so many compliances. Then you have a GST on all your operation. Then comes your local laws into picture from employee perspective, from a factory perspective, from a service industry, or from any municipal or other aspects comes into existence. And now question comes, why should I do a tax planning in the initial stage when I am mainly concentrating to stand up and start my activity? So obviously it's not a compulsory to have a tax planning on any stages. It's purely a lookout of an individual entrepreneur, how he wants to ensure that the current tax structure can be better used and exploited in the current scenario or the future scenario. So we are not talking about any tax avoidance or a tax planning within the four corners of the law where you can understand and deliver. So tax planning mainly helps you reduce tax liabilities. Also, it gives you an additional bonus when you're properly doing tax planning and your bottom line getting improved. Indirectly, your stakeholders will have the more add-on from side. Litigation. India, prone to litigation. And every day, even if anyone loves to read, at least 100 plus case law come within income tax and the indirect tax. I'm not talking about the IP and all where Subajith has explained. If I cover everything, it will be more than 10,000 plus. Still, lakhs of litigation are pending at courts. So just understand, if your structure is clear, transparent, and understandable for each aspect, then your litigation chances very, very low. And also indirectly is giving investment opportunity because you have opportunity cost by having a tax saving. Indirectly, you have opportunity to have more sensible investment and also improves your financial stability in long run. The tax planning can be based on your location, your nature, your form of business. Why location? Because India have a multiple structure like SEG, Special Economic Zone, EOU, Export Oriented Unit, a DTA, Domestic Tariff Area, you have STP, a Software Technology Park. So we're having so many structure which is optimal to me, which is not optimal to me. Like EOU had a sunset clause under income tax in 2011. SEZ had sunset clause in 21. But still people are exploring SEZ. Apart from income tax, there are indirect tax benefits also, which a company get when they go into SEG. Even there are some based on your type of business. Like in income tax also, there is specific exemption for tea sector, for coffee, for rubber plantation, for renewable energy, or any textile sector. It all depends on which sector you are setting up a startup, which location you are now, and obviously form of business which we'll discuss in detail, how you want to do, whether LLP or a company or a one-person company or a sole proprietorship. It all depends on you how you want to structure it. If you talk about in general, what I talk about is a very specific customer tax planning. In general, government has given certain exemptions and some scheme like pyramid scheme for startups. Like for startups, for 3 years there is a tax holiday out of 10 years if you're setting up before 31st March 2024. It was till 31st March 2023, but by this budget they increased one more year. And the reason is simple. They want to promote startup culture in India, and especially you've seen one recently session happened in Hyderabad on G20 startups, where the globally around 150 startups promoters came to Hyderabad, discussed on the environment and how the G20 infra resources can be used to grow the more startup culture. But with the limit, your annual turnover should not exceed 25 crore in any financial year. Second is your tax rebates. You have rebate from a DPIIT part if you're satisfying the startup criteria they have given. There are multiple deduction under Section 80 ISC of income tax, giving tax return of profits. Also on certain investment, you're getting the exemption. And also even people like individual HUF, if they are selling any residential or a building part, getting any capital gain, and if they invest that amount back into the startups, they are able to not pay any long-term capital gain. So indirectly, government is not promoting startup per se, complete ecosystem. Who invest, how the fund is invested, how sectors are grown, which sector, which location you are setting up, all decides and give you tax benefit to you. There's also one preemptive tax scheme where you no need to submit any audit report. Earlier it was limit of 50 lakhs and all for a service industry, now increase in this budget. So for service industry is 75 lakhs and for small businesses from 2 crore to 3 crore. But it is only for a sole proprietor, HUF and partnership firm. LLP company are out of this purview. So what we have seen, tax planning plays a major role even at your initial stage. Understand your cash flow, your transaction, your future planning. Everyone should do it. The tax planning can be from location or nature of business or a form of business. India is also giving certain income tax benefit in the form of no tax on your 3-year profit out of 10 years, exemption certain investment on tax profits, and preemptive tax scheme where you no need to do any audits and all, simply you declare the amount and pay taxes. So now we will move to compliance. And after GST, if you ask me honestly, India is slowly going to be a compliant society. The reason is why the government has tightened the way they regulate. Now, if you ask me, a GST Council, a GST Network CEO, or a PM office or a finance minister can have a weekly C-suite deck where can they see the complete economic transaction happening on a single sheet. Why? Because nowadays we need to report each and every transaction in the GSTR1, which is the output summary. And now e-invoice is there, your e-way bill is there. So any transaction even which are not reported, and now even FASTag, at every check post, there is a FASTag. So from all angles, India is pushing society to be more compliant. And tomorrow you may see there is no need to do an audit. Maybe only forensic audit will be in existence because the day transactions get accumulated and consolidated in the system of the government, even they can share your draft. Even if you open your GST portal and see, there will be some estimated revenue based on your month-on-month turnover. And based on your previous turnover, they will decide this much should be your turnover this year and this much tax you need to pay this financial year. So just imagine the way the government is using the technology. It may happen that tomorrow, without audit, they will tell you so much tax you need to pay. When you come to compliance, obviously income tax, you need to comply with your tax audit report, your ITR, maintaining of records for 8 years, and doing TDS compliance, for TCS compliance. And in India, for everything, there is a due dates. So तारीख पे तारीख आपको हमेशा मिलेगा. Or even now people say, we are more concerned about our compliance